And it's different than it is currently. So if you go on the SAT website right now, today, you're going to see some different names and different breakdowns. You need to make sure that any resources you look at right now are about the redesigned SAT 2016 versus what's currently being given. So the new pathway is the PSAT 8 and 9. And we'll look at when you can give that in the next slide. The PSAT 10 will be an option. However, you will also have the option of the PSAT / National Merit Scholar Qualifying Test. And that's very similar to what's currently given. For many of you, you currently give the PSAT, or your students take the PSAT to see if they qualify for the National Merit Scholarship Competition. And so this is the same test as that, but of course redesigned, realigned, revamped to match the 2016 SAT. This version of the PSAT will also have the AP potential reports in it. Some of you use those where it says this student is likely to succeed in AP Geography. This student is likely to succeed in AP Lit. And then, of course, the SAT would be the 11th grade test. This is the pathway chart. And what SAT does is they recommend giving things in pairs. So that's why you see color coding on here. You also see a fall column and a spring column. Okay? What they recommend is that either in the fall of 8th and the fall of 9th, or in the spring of 8th and the spring of 9th, is when you would give the PSAT 8-9. So you would make a choice to either test your students in the fall and then have 2 data points, or in the spring and have 2 data points. In 10th grade and 11th grade, you could give the PSAT that is also used for the National Merit Scholarship Competition in the fall of both 10th and 11th. Or if your school or your district decided not to do that, you could also use the PSAT 10, which is given in the spring of the sophomore year. So you would make a decision on that, on which way you'd want to go with your students. In the spring of their junior year is when they will take the SAT and the Work Keys test. So that won't change. We know that this is when the state mandated taking of the SAT will occur, is the spring of their junior year. For many students, they choose to retake the SAT in the fall of their senior year to try and get a higher score. That's something a student would have to decide on their own. That's something that won't be provided by the state as far as we know today. But that's something that a student could decide to do. It's a very common testing practice. We do know that fee waivers will still be going on and still be available. So for many of us, students who can't afford to retake the test on their own and would qualify for a fee waiver will be able to apply for that to retake the test. This pathway from the College Board, which produces all of these tests, also includes the Accuplacer. For many of our students that go to a community college, they wind up taking the Accuplacer to determine whether they can go into credit-bearing classes or whether they need to take remedial classes. It is our hope that if we have an SAT prep program in a school, that it will be beneficial to students who walk into a community college and need to take the Accuplacer. It's a pretty tough test. We have a lot of kids right now whose ACT scores are not considered high enough to be placed into a credit-bearing college class, so their college asks them to take the Accuplacer. And so many of our students are already taking this test once they get into GRCC. So this could be beneficial. Any of our efforts for instructional strategies, any of our efforts for test prep could be very beneficial to students walking into the Accuplacer. Does anyone have questions on the pathway? We can tell you what we know, but there may be some things that we don't know right now. Mm-hmm.
Do you know if the PSAT and MSTP, if they're doing it at 10th grade, will that make them eligible for the national merit? Because currently it's only the 11th grade test.
That we don't know. So the question was about if students take the PSAT for the national merit piece in 10th grade, does that make them eligible for the program? Because currently it's just those who take it as juniors. And that we don't know yet. We can find out. Anything else about the pathway? Questions?
Okay, so this is kind of pathway, but has SAT talked about a comprehensive system, whether it was good or bad? ACT Aspire started in grade 3 and moved through. Have they talked at all about a potential model that would help us from an earlier age?
So far, no. And let me talk more about that. And again, this is what we know as of right now. The question was, ACT had Aspire, which was going to start in 3rd grade and then be a pathway all the way up into the ACT test. What we know so far from the College Board is that 8-9 is as low as they're going at the moment. They're really focused on secondary prep. However, with everyone being in this competition market, we don't know if we'll see an additional comprehensive pathway or not. And it's something we can certainly ask about. But at this point, the lowest that we know they're going to go is the PSAT 8-9. Any other pathway questions before we move on? We do have some assessment pathway resources. Khan Academy has entered into an exclusive partnership with the College Board, which produces the SAT. And they have an extensive collection of practice items and videos. We're talking about thousands of items. So an extensive collection that will be available for free. Part of what the College Board has stated is that they have an interest in helping to dismantle some of the test prep companies. Their goal is to make quality test prep available to all students, regardless of whether they can afford a private tutor or not. Now, of course, take that as you will, because they are a company. However, many of these resources are not fully available yet, and that's because right now kids are taking the SAT 2015. And so the 2015 test prep resources are what you often see right now. Within the next month to 2 months, we will see the transition with Khan Academy as well as the redesigned SAT website that will have all of the resources available. We know by May that we'll see all the resources. We're hoping by April we'll see the majority of the resources available. So this will be beneficial to you if you are doing any SAT prep courses or SAT prep work with your students. There are official redesigned SAT sample questions, and there's also currently a PSAT redesigned sample test that you can take a look at, and you have a link to that in the bit.ly folder. You'll see that it's available as well. We will be looking at some of the redesigned SAT sample questions today in our sessions, and so you'll have an opportunity to look through what do these questions look like? What do these passages look like? How is this set up, and what's the format? Okay? Yeah. What do you mean is everything online? No, the test itself will be a paper pencil test. They are. Yep, they're all paper pencil tests for 2016.